Hey everybody, this is Perch, and more on the business side of comics. There's a couple moves and a couple changes that are being made, and I think taking a step back, we're going to talk about Dark Horse, probably as you saw from the thumbnail. Also, some changes to IDW and Boom and some of the other businesses. But to give you a higher level kind of business context of what I think is happening right now, is this is in many ways a delayed reaction from what happened in 2000. So in 2000, we had the pandemic, comics shut down. There are a bunch of stopgap measures put together. But I think a lot of businesses, and this isn't just true for comics, this is for lots of places, a lot of businesses had it in their minds that things would return slowly back to normal toward the end of 2000. And then, we got a new president, and the new president was promising to turn the corner on the virus. So was the old president, for that matter, but neither happened. It didn't matter really who was going to get in. That wasn't going to happen. So now we're seeing a lot of the things that were kind of put together with duct tape now are starting to unravel, or they need a longer term plan. And you're seeing this in terms of how people are getting hired. There's the kind of the weird, there aren't jobs being added, but at the same point, unemployment's down. So you have this strange labor shortage situation. But do you really? Because a number of companies are just kind of quietly folding in on themselves. You have a lot of acquisition going on. And that ultimately gets us to comics. So if you look at Marvel and DC, DC obviously had some very public layoffs. Marvel had some very private layoffs, but both are amounting to kind of a similar thing. It's a streamlined approach. It's a lot of limited series. We've taken what already felt like short-term thinking, and we're going even more short-term with it. So now, everything is a limited series, and everything is being done as consolidated as possible. And it's really kind of gotten us to a strange place in comics where, nobody is really sure of anything. I'm reading a little bit too much into it. The vibe at Emerald City was I would say tentative. And part of it was because people weren't really sure who was going to show up. There's this kind of mystery fear of this third variant that we have to worry about. And attendance was quiet on Thursday because, of course, it always is, and it picked up a little bit. But a lot of people were kind of thinking the same thing, which is, there's a feeling of instability going on. So in the midst of all this, Dark Horse Comics is reportedly up for sale. It gets mentioned a bunch of places. Now, to give some better context of what may or may not be going on, but at least the way I read it, is that you've got somebody who either is or is acting like an investment banker that's shopping the company for an acquisition. Not a little bit, it's a lot different than a fire sale type situation where, the company is bleeding money in massive debt, and they're trying to get out any way they can. We have seen that in comics as well. This is, it's not like Dark Horse is using this to kind of be the stalking horse for a bigger round of investment or something like that. It feels like a number of the people who invested in the company, and in this case, Dark Horse has a few different money people into the company. One of them is Visionary Vanguard, which came into Dark Horse about 3 years ago. And what this reads like, because the way the comic is the company is being shopped, it feels like the investors are coming together to basically gauge interest in what a company like Dark Horse could get. Dark Horse is sitting on some IP. It's not, they don't have the biggest portfolio. Stuff has come and some of the stuff is gone. Dark Horse is likely to be the recipient for at least some of the Substack content, and depending on how things go with Image, could receive more. Dark Horse is often the named company that's there. But what I think is really happening here, and I talked to a couple of people on Thursday. I talked to some more on Friday, and Friday really kind of crystallized the picture a little bit more for me. That it really feels like what's happening with Dark Horse is this testing the waters to see if an entertainment company like an Amazon or Hulu or Netflix or somebody would come in and snatch up the company and have it be their kind of entertainment IP arm. Now, I don't think that number is likely to be very high. The odds are you're talking, I don't know, you're talking tens of millions, but definitely not hundreds of millions, I think, at this point, because of the way some of the debt is structured, because of some of the outstanding cash. Visionary Vanguard is an investment firm When an investment firm comes into a company, their primary focus is ultimately to flip it. That's why they do these things. They don't come into those deals looking to like hold on to a company for 10, 20 years. They come in to get some initial investment, raise the property value, and turn it over. And so that's where Dark Horse is really at. Now, if a price tag of say 20 to 25 million got put on the table, I don't know that the company would take it at this point. I don't know if the investors would go for it. Primarily because that wouldn't be a terribly attractive return on money. And if there's a belief that the entertainment industry is hot right now and that people want to come in and do a lot of deals in this space, which is at least what we've heard is why they're doing this in the first place, then that's gonna be too low. If you believe that the space is hot and you're talking about a 10% return on what you've got, the only reason you'd take that is if you thought the business was falling apart. And I don't think Dark Horse really sits in that position. Their books are more or less stable. Yes, they do have some debt, but generally things are not in the worst shape for the company. Like I said, they are likely to be the recipient of a handful of other things, and that's good. But in general, they're not. It's not a fire sale situation. If this was IDW, for example, which I think has a lot of bad news right now, so kind of shifting over there, obviously there was the news that they are losing and lost the Hasbro relationship and that license, which again we called about a year ago when Magic the Gathering moved over. That was the first one up for option and it went somewhere else. So this isn't a surprise by any stretch of the imagination, but You've got those licenses loose. You have Disney that's pulled out of IDW. You have Justin Barber, who's apparently no longer the editor-in-chief at IDW. That he's apparently parted ways, and we do not have that full story as well. But he was somebody who was very much on top of Hasbro and had been very, very attached to that license. So that's probably another factor involved in all this. That John Barber is that relationship isn't bearing fruit anymore. So he's going. So if you're IDW's investors, on the other hand, you've tried some entertainment properties with Netflix. They haven't really gone over. And so a fire sale situation probably is more what's on your mind. If you could basically get get a return on the money you got, you can write off your upside and call it a day. The other company that is mentioned all the time, but never without any real heat behind it, is Boom. And what I hear, and I came up a bunch on Friday, is that Boom is definitely interested in a sale, would welcome it. They aren't actively pursuing it, but they could find themselves, or they could position themselves to be in the same position as Dark Horse, where they do hire an investment banker, they get a firm out there to start pushing it. And there is this kind of narrative that's starting to circulate within comics to saying, the traditional comic business is in trouble. The U.S. comic business as we've known it. Forget what everybody says, but it's better than ever. It's in trouble. Big players like Scholastic are taking up more and more of the pie. Marvel and Dark Horse are trying to reposition themselves, but even they are stumbling a little bit with it. And for smaller comic companies, they look at what's gone on with Diamond with some concern. Oni is going to work with Lunar now. They're moving. And so I think all those pieces are telling people that, hey, if there's an option right now to get out and do something on the entertainment side, if there's an option to get entertainment money, get that entertainment money. Now's the time to cut bait and just go for it. That's where people's heads are at the moment. If there's a way to kind of make some money before it potentially gets a lot worse. Because I think the pervasive industry feeling right now is that for smaller companies, it's going to get worse. The people who are really small, who are doing kind of their own independent efforts, who have their finances under control, they're probably in decent shape. They understand their market. They understand what they need to live. They're going to do fine. The things like Substack and those kinds of deals, that's a one where it's still a big question mark, kind of where that all goes. And if that's actually going to produce money, I think the smart money, and at least what people have been told, is that It's unlikely that year 2 money is going to be like year 1 money. So it didn't take off like people thought. Same thing is true with Comixology and their recent deals. It hasn't taken off like has been hoped. So this is kind of this last moment of, can we spin some of these companies and as entertainment companies get some cash out of it? And if we can, do it. And if we can't, then I think things tend to start to get really hairy toward the middle part of next year. I think summer 2022, I think you're going to have to see some of these small companies either figure out a way to work together, and working together by cutting their costs, basically merge 2 companies together and carve out half of it. You're going to see small groups, small companies just control their costs, not do a lot of hiring, but just make sure they can keep the lights on and do what they're going to do and survive. And you're going to see new big players. You're going to see Viz take a bigger share. You're going to see Scholastic take a bigger share. You're going to see a realignment of who the real power players in comics are. And it remains to be seen, where does Marvel and DC play in this? I think they find themselves a little bit confused right now of where things go. And if you're Valiant, if you're IDW, if you're Avatar, if you're some of these companies, you're in a very strange place right now. If Boom can get taken out, I think they would welcome it tomorrow. We'll see if anything happens here with Dark Horse. IDW, I think, really would just love to get some of the people who put in money paid back and call it a day. But that's the state of the industry as I'm hearing it and as I'm seeing it. But we'll see how things pull out. Anyway, kind of a dry business video. Hope that was helpful. And thanks for listening.